After surviving 2 straight miracles to get to the championship game, the question on everyone's mind was, will the basketball gods stop looking down upon the Virginia Cavaliers? And Texas Tech looked to be the spoiler late in the second half until, amazingly, Virginia found themselves in need of another miracle, and for the 3rd time in a row, they made us all believe. Let's start by looking at how Virginia attacked in their offense. And a big focus was on injured starter Tariq Owens, who was playing with a severely sprained ankle. Virginia knows Texas Tech likes to switch on the screens, so a simple pin down forces Owens to guard Guy, who takes his time before rising up over him for the jumper. Different situation here as they set a pin down on the left side, but they again force Owens to have to switch onto Guy and close out and elevate. He is half a step slow with his mobility, and Guy hits a quick catch and release. They run the same play, and while it doesn't generate an immediate shot, it directly leads to a baseline drive. Owens would normally get right into the paint and block this shot, but he's late reacting, and Diakite gets the bucket. This time, with Owens guarding Jerome, they straight isolate on him out top. And because Owens' right ankle is injured, he can't push off as strongly going to his left. That forces the rotation of the lowest man over to stop the drive. Before I show what happened with the defense, I want to acknowledge how great this pass was, both from a timing and accuracy standpoint. What should happen is Edwards needs to split the difference between the 2 weak side players. Instead, he got lost ball watching too much, and he's much too far to be able to close out, and Guy knocks down 1 of his 4 threes. Brandon Francis surprised everyone by leading Texas Tech in scoring, and they had to flow into secondary actions to find him. On this pick and roll, Tech knows Guy has to bump down the roll man, opening up a nice skip pass for a wide open wing 3 that he lets fly. With the way Virginia plays defense, you need to catch them before they can set up in position, and this gorgeous attack on the catch to the middle gets him to the front of the rim, where he got extra creative to drop it in over the arm of Diakite. This time, Tech smartly utilized Culver in the low post, which naturally sucks in the pack line defense. But this position by Braxton Key is way too far away from Francis, and an easy kickout gets him a hop into another 3 ball to cut the lead. This game was marred by some questionable officiating, so I brought in Ronnie Nunn, a 19-year NBA veteran referee who is also NBA head of officials for 5 years and director of development for 3, so we can get a better understanding of how these plays unfolded. Well, early in the second half, we had a drive by Ty Jerome, and the ball gets tied up, it's blocked, they come down, Jerome makes a call that he wants the referee to make, ultimately becomes a jump ball. I think people were confused how this became that, so walk us through the steps of what the rule is and why that was called this way.
Yeah, well, the official that was really demonstrative in making that call was on the lower screen. He was in the center position or maybe a low trail at that time. He sees that play as we all saw it. I thought it was an excellent reaction to what I believe he saw was a jump ball. Now we take the baseline camera, where you would think that referee on the baseline, the lead official, would respond to the same call. It was right there in front of him, but he doesn't. Why? Because the ball has become deflected and it is out of the capture of the player who originally had it. He doesn't gather the ball anymore. It becomes deflected and it's open and available to anybody. That is not a jump ball. It's a play on. He just got ahead of his skis a little bit. And by the way, we've all done it, no matter who we are in the game, and as excellent as we have been, it can happen.
One thing about Texas Tech's offense that bugged me was how often they'd hold the ball before setting a ball screen. What kills Virginia's defense is attacking on the catch, and when you wait for seconds after the catch and allow the defense to get set in position, the shots generated get that much harder. Time and again, the ball handler would cause the offense to come to a screeching halt, wait for the ball screen, and allow Virginia's defenders to load up and force very tough shots. But let's get to the end of the game where all the amazing happened. Virginia started a freshman at point guard, and it seemed like a good opportunity for Texas Tech to play the Draymond sag on him. Just ignore him in order to clog the lane and help off of people. We did get a glimpse early in the game where Moretti basically ignores him in order to clog the lane and force Hunter to settle for the mid-range shot. And Moretti leads Clark again to stop the penetration, and even though he hits this one, I would have dared Clark to make at least one more. And midway through the second half, Moretti gets beaten but is able to not only strip the ball, but knocks it off of Clark. More reason to make him a creator on offense in exchange for stopping the real threats in Guy, Hunter, and Jerome. In fact, they finally did what they should have done way earlier. Put Culver on Clark so he could roam and double team, forcing the ball out of the hands of Jerome here. On this possession, it worked to perfection as Jerome jumps the ball in the corner and forces a key turnover. The play before that, it should have worked perfectly as well, but led to a tie-up that wasn't called, and then led to a crucial and one. I asked Ronnie to explain what happened here.
What happens with jump balls, and it's an illusion sometimes, what officials don't want is that people grab onto balls and you don't respond to it quick enough, because then the movement of the body, the elbows go up, and there's a flailing of the body and elbow. And sometimes you don't get a perfect jump ball, but you've got hands around the ball, and all of a sudden somewhere around the ball, maybe the hand, the wrist, somewhere in there, you would call it sooner. There are other situations where it's a good competitive play and you want the players to play it out. And you're taking a little bit of a chance on that. The third part of it is there a foul there? And not really a jump ball, and not a situation where you let them play out, you blow the whistle. So I think out of those three situations, the officials got to decide. Here, he elects to let it go. You see a little bit of the hands and the fouls, and also you see ball. I would have probably liked a jump ball on this situation too.
Virginia had an 8-point lead with 5 minutes to go before Texas Tech nailed two really tough three-point shots, and they catch the smaller Clark on Culver out top. So he promptly goes to work, Clark flops hard to the ground, and it forces Diakite to step up, and the drop-off to Odiase gives them an and one in a tie game. Clinging to a 2-point lead, the Cavaliers drive into the baseline, but watch Guy creep up and around the Diakite screen. This is supposed to be a switch, but it's a step late, and Guy hits him with a gorgeous inside-hand layup to avoid the block. Texas Tech brings the ball up down one with a minute to go and spreads the floor for Culver to go to work. This is perfectly defended, forcing him to give it up, and the driving kick to the corner is just about thrown away. Francis forces the shot up with time on the clock, and here's where it got interesting as there's a collision going for the ball.
Yeah, this is a great athletic play that's aggressive and not rough. It ends up looking rough, but we've got a great call there because both guys go for the ball. Their arms are interwrapped between each other along with the ball. They lose their positioning and fall, just on their own because of this effort. It's a great jump ball, and that's, by the way, something you're trying to avoid on the other one. So that one I loved. Great jump ball. Anybody who doesn't see it that way needs to understand the game a little bit better. That's a great jump ball.
I agree. I think it's like a loose ball. They're both fighting for it. There's no foul in there because they both have an equal opportunity to grab that ball out of there. They both fall away from each other. And so, that one to me was a good call. I just wish they'd go back and actually toss the damn ball up in the air and let them go after it and see who's mano a mano, who gets to win that. With another crack at it, Tech does the same play, isolating for Culver, and this time he does a nice shot fake off the dribble, gets half a step, uses the spin move to separate, and a nice use of the left off the glass to take the lead. Down one and 30 seconds left, Virginia wants to get the best shot they can get quickly. Jerome gets a decent look off the pick and roll, can't hit, and they're forced to foul and put Texas Tech on the free throw line. Odiase, not a great free throw shooter, hits both of them, and now the Red Raiders are in a great position to win this game. With 20 seconds left, Virginia wants to get a quick 2 first, foul, and extend the game an extra possession. A 2-pointer doesn't hurt Texas Tech that much as long as they hit their free throws. But they look completely unprepared for this scenario as Jerome gets right to the rim, but instead of letting him go, they get into full rotation mode. They do the one thing you cannot do here, and that's give up a wide open corner 3, and of course, Hunter just nails it to tie. If you're wondering who screwed this up, in a normal scenario, Culver is the lowest guy, so he rotates over, and the farthest guy rotates down. That would be Francis, who should have split the difference between Clark and Hunter. Instead, Francis sprints to the ball. Nobody is back there to close out, and Hunter can lick his thumb and check the wind, he's so wide open. Texas Tech doesn't call timeout, and in a tie game, you can hold for the last shot. But they don't do that. And this is a decent look, but Culver hadn't hit a 3 all game and was 30% for the year. Not surprisingly, it misses, but what was surprising was what happened next. I'm not sure I've ever seen the end of a regulation game play out like this, and I just thought we could spend a quick minute just to describe what the rule is and why Virginia was not honored with a timeout call here on the rebound at the end of the game. Yeah, the key here, I think, is that even if you're calling for the timeout before the ball is released, the referee has to acknowledge it. He has to see it, and it might take him a split second to kind of understand what's happening and then blow the whistle.
Yeah, you've got to see it, and you got to add 2 and 2 together so you can come up with the not 3 but 4. You got to come up with a direct, unequivocal answer. So we had those situations a lot in the NBA, and you've got to first see exactly who has possession, and then you pick up everything else. The clock, they're asking for the timeout. You find everybody else, and then hopefully you come up with which happened first. The chicken or the egg. So in this case, I think there was room to recognize the timeout. But that one is splitting hairs, in all honesty. So they went with the most obvious, and that was a pass out and away and loss of possession.
With 1 second left, Texas Tech had one last chance and a whole bunch of timeouts in a row to come up with something good. Instead, not one screen is set, hardly any movement, and the shot doesn't even get halfway to the rim. From a coaching standpoint, a pretty disappointing final play if I've ever seen one. But we all get an extra 5 minutes of enjoyment. In the overtime, Mooney cuts down the lane for the pass, and this caused a few eyebrows to be raised as he appeared to be in the lane for about 4 seconds. None of the referees were counting, and he finally gets the ball up and on the rim where it takes a gentle bounce or two before falling in for a 3-point lead. This missed 3 seconds call was a little iffy, but this foul call interpretation was not. This was a really controversial issue, I think even in real time, and then certainly with the replay where we have the ball handler guy falling down in the corner going to his right. And you can see the defense initially react incredulously. And I don't know if the replay helps the referee's case any more than it did because, I don't think there was any contact by the defense. What do you think happened here?
Well, this is a very unfortunate play. The situation here is, that there's an adage. Players don't go to the floor on their own. Now, we're talking slippery floor. Everybody gets that. You can tell slips. But players don't go to the floor unless it's a trip involved. Do they every once in the blue moon trip over themselves? Yes. Can they trip over the opponent? Foul. Yes. Can they trip over their own teammate? Yes. And the 99th percentile says they've tripped over the defender or their opponent. And in this case, he tripped over his teammate. And it's very, very hard to distinguish a tripping foul when all of a sudden someone goes down. When you have those things in your mind, the data supports that, the measurements support that. It's constantly being tripped instead of tripping over. And unfortunately, in this case, it's tripping by one's extended leg to try to get the screen there. And all of a sudden, the player trips over his own guy.
And it's too bad because he had such a great angle on the whole thing. And based on where the red players and the players on the red are, it's impossible for him to have been tripped by them. He's got a trail guy who's a step and a half behind him. He's got a guy sunk down on the block who's still 3 feet away from him. So really unfortunate. If there was a call the Texas Tech fans wanted to be upset about, this would be it. Texas Tech likes to show zone to start the possession, but then go man after the first pass. The danger is that your players can get confused and forget. And this may have happened here as Odiase is a step late moving with his man to the perimeter, and that's all the room Hunter needs. Wow. Approaching a minute left, Texas Tech gets the stop they desperately need. Moretti beats Guy to the ball, and then in the typical play, the ball is knocked out of bounds by the defense. But for some reason, the referees decided to review this play. Why did they even go to the replay on this?
On all deflections in college now, also, well, in the NBA. In the NBA, 2 minutes and under, you can go for goaltending. You can go for deflections out of bounds plays where 2 players hit the ball or whatever, and you could read the video. Normally, this play is very simple, and the ball belongs back to Texas Tech because the defensive player flicked it out of the guy's hand. Now, here's the problem. When you really go to video and you slow-mo, the pinky of this player does seem to touch the ball. I think we need to consider a certain rule by establishing X amount of plays of this nature. We all know that when a ball is knocked out of your hand, it may in fact touch part of the ending of your palm or something as it goes out, a finger. But the real play is it's a deflection knocked out of your hand by the opponent. So unless you have a dominant kind of a cadence to where the ball goes out, it clearly hits your other hand for some reason that it's out there, or it hits your leg, or it hits your body, where it's something distinguishable to make a second play in that sequence, then it should be out of bounds off a guy that, originally had the ball. The ball is clearly knocked out of one's possession. I think you have to have a demonstrative second touch that makes this play within the spirit of the rule. This is not in the spirit of the rule, actually, in my view. And I think technology here is really an issue for us in this one, and for anybody watching this.
Okay, fair enough. Well, Ronnie, thank you for coming on the show, breaking this down. So much to learn on the court as a referee or as a coach, as a player. It sounds like it's really hard to learn as a referee. What are the resources? Where can they go to actually learn more about becoming better at this?
Well, they can come to the None Better Refs Camp. One we have in L.A., Panorama City area, June 14th, 15th, and 16th. And we also have one in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania this year instead of Springfield. We have one there on the 19th, 20th, and 21st of July. So one in the East, one in the West. And the key about officiating these are the big plays in officiating that people have to build a character and a substance to them to get to this level. But you've got to start somewhere, and you've got to improve as you're going. It's an excellent teaching camp, developmental camp. And listen, I'm a product of good teaching and good mentoring, and that's why I became successful. I believe in that mantra for others as well. I'm no special child prodigy. It came from hard work with me, and I trust that those will take into consideration nonebetterrefs.com for their interest in performing better than they are doing now and get to those aspirations that they have.
Fantastic. Well, again, thanks for coming on the show and bringing this stuff down for us. I cannot wait to hook up with you during the playoffs, where I'm sure in the NBA we're going to have a load of things to go over on a multi-nightly basis. So we will see you next week. With the lead in the ball, Virginia can wind the clock down, and when the switch was screwed up on the pick and roll, Mooney recovers but foolishly reaches in, and he's forced to foul rather than give up an uncontested layup. With a 4-point lead, Tech generates a pretty good look from the corner, but it's nowhere close. Texas Tech is forced to foul, and Virginia makes their free throws, paving the way for an incredible story of redemption as they went from being the first #1 seed to ever lose in the first round last year to being NCAA tournament champions this year. And it was in such thrilling fashion, I don't think another tournament will ever eclipse what we saw here. I hope you enjoyed this video and it made sense to you as a coach, a player, and a fan. Please give us a thumbs up and comment down below. Plus, I'm offering you a free video with more insights into the way the game is played that will improve your playing and your coaching. Make sure to check back here, since I'll have a range of different free videos moving forward and we'll be swapping out links. Click here to watch some other videos I recently produced on both the NBA and March Madness. And hit that subscribe button and adjust your settings so you'll be notified immediately as soon as a new video drops. Thanks for joining me today, and don't forget, sports fans, at BBallBreakdown, not a channel, we're a conversation. You in?